Today we're talking about MMPH's new album, Dear God. MMPH is a Boston-based experimental electronic artist who really haven't created that much music. He has created a few projects before, but this is definitely one of his most ambitious projects to this date. He's basically just a random artist that I found when I was searching through Bandcamp. That is how I found him. I'm gonna leave a link to his music down below. Anyways, Dear God is the cornerstone of what he has been able to create during this past year. And what I love about this album is that it's completely instrumental. It's consisting of 5 tracks and it takes in on about 20 minutes. So it's not that long. It's very easy to listen to, or that's something that you can argue about, but it's a very, very interesting record. If there's one reason this album caught my attention, it is because it gave me that Jean-Michel Jarre Oxygen vibe. And I actually have Oxygen, the album, at the back of my wall here. And to explain what I mean with this Oxygen vibe, when I listened to this album right here, I very easily started to create pictures in my mind. I very easily started to play with my imagination without actually putting that much effort or intention into doing that. It just automatically happened. I rarely come across albums that start to play with your senses without you actually asking for it. But that is what happened with this album here and this album here, alright? So check those out. The fact that the album, the music in itself, starts to kind of bond with your imagination, it just shows that there's an immense amount of talent behind this record. The MMPH is truly unique and brilliant in his way of putting this piece of art together. We instantly get an example of this when we listen to the first track, for example, which is called Sun God. It has this very dark and alien-esque sound to it. It almost sounds like we're listening to the soundtrack of a alien horror movie. Throughout the song, you can hear these metallic, clinkering objects. They almost sound like robots trying to communicate to each other, or at least that's how I imagine it. While hearing this, there's this sledgehammery kick that kind of jolts throughout the rest half of the track. The thing about this album is that it never stops changing. Once you think you've fathomed what the album is trying to cook up, you're hit in the face with something completely new. And that is what amazes me so much. In the middle of Sun God, for example, the atmosphere completely changes from dark and alien-esque to something very majestic and glistening. And I'm talking in particular about the melodic part that plays out on the piano. I just love how it sounds so lofty, how it sounds so epic. I mean, the opening track, Sun God, that is what it's called. I think it's a stunner. I think it's something that you will fall in love with the first time you listen to it. Both Sun God and the next track, Facade, remind me of something very progressive. They remind me of some progressive electronic acts, but I can't quite put the finger of what I can compare it with. Alright, so this is the best thing that I can come up with. So if Pink Floyd, Jean-Michel Jarre, and Thriftworks came together and made an album together, this is what it would sound like. Past Lives is the third track on this record, and I feel like the title of that track just fits perfectly what it sounds like. Imagine dying and then waking up in this futuristic chamber or pod where you can kind of replay and select the memories from your past lives. And you can actually sit there and listen and watch them as if you're watching something on your phone. These memories are represented by the whispering voices that you can hear on the start of the track. I mean, you can definitely hear that this track and this whole album has kind of catered to my imagination, and I hope that it does the same to you as well. Because that is what good music is all about. Good music is supposed to leave a mark in you. It's supposed to provoke your thoughts and your feelings. And that is what happened to me. The The fourth track is called Wilting, and it's a song that starts out with a very slowly positive and also curious vibe. The reason why I get this very curious atmosphere or vibe from this song is because it is so much more simplistic and so much more calmer compared to Facade and Dear God. It's something completely new again. The song alternates and shifts between these very positive notes and negative notes, and it's almost like the whole song is a conflict in itself. I'm not starting to think about any conflict in particular. I'm just saying that the song has a very airy and troublesome atmosphere to it. And that is far from bad. Of course, it might sound very abstract, but I think it's just a purely positive thing, because any type of thought or feeling that an album brings up, which is not directly bad, is good. At least that's what I feel. Early on in this song called Wilting, we hear this very tremolo-ish, clean-cut synth, which almost sounds like it has been dragged out of the rhythmical context. And by making the rhythm mixed up, by adding the synth, it all ends up sounding very slick and cool and new, which is good. You kind of just want to start rocking your head and your whole body to the song. The whole glistening, icy, and epic beat stops completely when we hear the sound of what is it called? I think it's called a mobile. You know, it's one of those things that you hang outside your door, outside your house, and then when they're caught in the wind, they make this very soft, tingly sound. A mobile, yeah, that is at least what Google says it is called. We hear the sound of this mobile kind of lingering for a couple of seconds, and then it just goes back to where it left off again with this very glistening and majestic beat. Now, during the last half of this song, the artist decided to add one of the most irritating samples you could ever imagine. It's a sample of a glass kind of shattering and breaking, and you hear it repeating and looping over and over and over, and it's completely put out of context. I don't know why why MMPH thought this would be cool to have there in the first place. I don't know. It was irritating to listen to. It didn't fit there at all. But the song in general is kind of beautiful. It's nice to listen to other than the sample, so it's a thumbs up. The fifth and the last song is called Bloom, and luckily there's a lot more and a lot better sampling on this track compared to the previous one. The mobile from the previous song is actually in this song as well. It is kind of opening the track up, making it sound very beautiful, magical almost. We also hear the sound of a knittering fire in the background. It makes me fantasize about being in a very nice, welcoming space. And on top of that, you can also hear some door handles being turned. There's also some ASMR sounding whispering in the background there, just for people who like that. In general, I really enjoyed this last track. I have to say that this was one of the most positive and uplifting tracks on the whole album. Which was a bit of a contrast, because in the start of the album it started out with a much more gloomier, dark and futuristic sounding atmosphere, and that is what I find very interesting about this record. It goes from a very, very dark space, very glitchy and mechanic space, to a more down-to-earth, straight out positive vibe. I would almost go so far as comparing this album to a sea voyage, where the ship, the crew, is meeting monster waves, unearthly creatures, typhoons, the most dangerous weathers that you can ever imagine, and then, after a couple of months out on sea, it returns back to its dock as if nothing ever happened. You know, that is what this record is like as well. You are on this very dangerous, weird, majestic adventure, and then you come back at the end of the album as if nothing had ever happened. You're back, you're home, you're at a nice hotel or whatever, living your life as if nothing had ever happened. Man, I like that comparison. I gotta pat myself on the shoulder for that one. Anyways, as you can see, as you can hear, this album catered to my imagination in such a big way. It really impacted me a lot. And the only thing that I can say to you guys is that if you don't check out this album, I will be disappointed. All right? There's a link to it down below. You can find it on the website Bandcamp. I'm giving this album, Dear God by MMPH, an 8 out of 10. That's a very high score. Go and check it out or you'll be missing out. And yeah, thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it that you are watching my videos. If you like these reviews, let me know in the comment. If you have anything that you want me to review next time, then also let me know in the comments below, all right? I want us to have a conversation here about music. That would be awesome, to just have a community where we can talk freely about music. That is essentially what I want to do with this channel. I want to create a community where we can just talk freely and express our ideas about music. So yeah, if that sounds good to you, then contact me in the comments. Feel free to share whatever you want. And yeah, I hope to see you guys later. Stay tuned. Bye. Enjoyed this song. It was one of the most uplifting. These pans inside your nose, gently, very gently. Hey. Just created a new word, guys. Beautiful. You are so beautiful. It's like an extra L there. Try to pronounce that. Send in footage. Send it to me, and I'll feature one of yours in my next video. You're a man. I know you're a man. Or maybe you're a woman. I don't know. Are you there? Are you there? I knew you were there all along. You were listening, weren't you? God damn it, you're sneaky as hell.